This video was a long time coming, despite the fact that I don't usually make WWE videos on my channel regarding of what's going on lately and the fact that wrestlers have been passing away due to the coronavirus or other situations that they encountered. But this video is going to be something that I want to discuss because I know full well that people aren't going to discuss about it anytime soon when it comes to the brand split of WWE, which is the second brand split. Now, as you can tell, since the second brand split has begun, WWE had been using Survivor Series of having Raw and SmackDown face each other in brand supremacy. And I gotta say, since 2016, I actually found this a really good way to actually showcase the wrestlers' talents by completely facing the other wrestlers' brand in order to prove which brand is the better. But unfortunately, for what I've witnessed involving the pay-per-view, involving the matches and booking decisions of Raw and SmackDown lately, I can guarantee you that it's starting to become really repetitive on seeing SmackDown in defeat constantly. Now, yes, I understand that there was literally nothing to win when it comes to brand supremacy, but there's actually a lot to discuss in this video. We're going to not only about Raw and SmackDown, but the fact of how SmackDown is completely different compared to the SmackDown from the first brand split. Yes, I understand that this is supposed to be a different era where there's going to be different people in different directions, but considering that there was so many questionable booking decisions on having SmackDown constantly lose at Survivor Series, I'm really starting to convince that all this is mostly done on purpose. Yes, I understand that WWE is mostly fake when it comes to wrestling, but after completely watching these moments and completely analyzing them of what WWE is doing when it comes to the brand split, I am starting to convince that this entire Survivor Series brand supremacy thing is just to make Raw the superior show and nothing else. Believe me when I say this, is that after the women's match of 2020 between Raw and SmackDown, this is where I officially convinced that all of this is done just to make SmackDown being pushed to the ground constantly while having Raw take up all the spotlights. Okay, I know what I'm saying is exaggerating, but believe me, I really cannot be able to take the stress seriously whether I completely see these booking decisions constantly year after year if Survivor Series is going to be a Raw vs SmackDown brand supremacy pay-per-view again. So for this video, I'm gonna be counting the 7 times that WWE has pushed SmackDown to the ground in Survivor Series. Granted, there are multiple reasons that SmackDown has been buried at Survivor Series, or at least pushed down, but I don't want to make this video much longer, and I don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to the other matches in WWE when it comes to Survivor Series of 2016 to 2020. So here's my top 7. Here's the 7 times that SmackDown has been pushed down to the ground from WWE in Survivor Series. Yeah, I got the title name mixed up, but you know what I'm talking about. Number 1, the whole Cruiserweight roster in 2016. This number is mostly confusing considering that 2016 was the first year where Raw and SmackDown faced each other again, if you want to count 2005's edition of Survivor Series. This match, I honestly think that the whole purpose is just to have Raw keep the Cruiserweight division, but it wasn't really needed to be on the line regardless. The match itself is Brian Kendrick defending his Cruiserweight Championship against Kalisto. And the match ended with a interference by Baron Corbin, who managed to give Brian Kendrick the win, who was part of Raw, allowing Raw to get an extra point. Leaving the next match, which is the 5-on-5 50-minute match, mostly meaningless. I would easily go against this completely, but the thing is, I honestly think that this match was basically about the Cruiserweights and not much Raw and SmackDown, despite the fact that it's a brand supremacy match. Back in 2016, I actually found the Cruiserweights a really good addition since they stopped doing the Cruiserweight division in 2007. And compared to what I saw in the Cruiserweight Classic, I really fell in love with it to the point that they really knew how to bring new talent instead of bringing most of the stars from WCW. Yes, I am mostly aware that there are some stars in the Cruiserweight Classic that were from WCW, but the thing is, I actually think that for when they bring new stars, it can lead to more interesting ideas for what they can do in the main roster, not to mention giving them screen time for what they did in the Cruiserweight Classic. Here's my issue with this. When the Cruiserweights became a thing during the first brand split, SmackDown already had them, and I actually had no issue with Raw having the Cruiserweights, since that SmackDown already did in the first brand split. Why? Well, for one, considering that the first brand split was new and the WWE is just trying to have a balance between the rosters of Raw and SmackDown, they really need to actually make Raw more of a pop culture show while having SmackDown have most of the talent and completely using that talent in unique ways. Back then, SmackDown didn't have a women's championship, so what they had was the Cruiserweight Championship. And whether I completely think about Raw using these types of divisions in the old brand split, I honestly think that it won't work, considering that they have the women's championship and the fact that they're trying to make the rivalries mostly edgy while also trying to be more pop culture. I know why I said it doesn't make any sense, but considering that Raw used to have guest hosts in 2009, and in the Ruthless Aggression era, they had one of the biggest stars since they become a rising stars in SmackDown. I think it actually goes to show that Raw doesn't really need a Cruiserweight division. But as for the second brand split, I highly doubt that SmackDown really didn't need to have a Cruiserweight division, mainly the fact that what they had back in 2016 since the brand split has begun, they pretty much had everything of what they wanted. And the reason onto why I actually think that the Cruiserweight match at Survivor Series is considered more pointless is because 205 Live ended up happening right after Survivor Series, with more Cruiserweights giving more screen time on that show compared to Raw. Granted, Raw did had Cruiserweights in the Raw brand exclusive pay-per-views, but at the same time, it's just basically one or two matches, and while the rest of the Cruiserweights ended up going to 205 Live for the most part. Here's something that I honestly think that this whole match that didn't need to have the Cruiserweights to be on the line when it comes to the roster. I honestly think that if this was just a normal match, and the fact that the Cruiserweight Championship wasn't on the line, then maybe I can actually see that SmackDown could have a chance against Brian Kendrick. Because with this match ending with the interference from Baron Corbin, I honestly think that this match is mostly pointless other than just adding another Cruiserweight match. The kickoff actually had a 6-man tag team match, and compared to what I've seen from this match, it would have been better if the kickoff match ended up happening on the main show when it comes to Raw and SmackDown. Yes, I'm aware that most of the roster, that the 6 wrestlers on screen isn't really from Raw and SmackDown 100%, but at the same time, I honestly think that it really makes the whole brand supremacy match in this mostly non-existent compared to the other brand supremacy matches in 2016 Survivor Series. Now, I don't usually have anything against this, but at the same time, this was something that it didn't need to actually happen when it comes to the Cruiserweight division of the new brand split. For me personally, just looking at the match right now compared to what the other Survivor Series matches did in 2016, it honestly feels like it's there for the sake of having Cruiserweights be showcased in Survivor Series, but at the same time, they had to have brand supremacy into it in order to make it interesting. But at the end of the day, with the interference of Baron Corbin, it honestly makes this a way to have Raw pick up a victory. Usually I wouldn't go against this, but for what I saw in Survivor Series afterwards, after 2016, it just gets a lot more worse to the point that it's starting to become really predictable and frustrating. Number 2, Triple H. And no, that is actually the number that I listed. It's not a makeup word or anything. I literally put Triple H at number 2 because of how the main event of 2017 Survivor Series instantly just give Raw a win because of confusing booking decisions when it comes to Triple H's motivations. I can say right now that out of all the Survivor Series that I've seen involving Raw and SmackDown, 2017 was probably the best one out of them all. Even with the main event being a good match in general, despite the ending. Let's just say that the ending honestly makes the whole brand supremacy thing really thrown out the door compared to the other moments that I've seen. Since that this is supposed to be a way of having Triple H face off Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, they also added in Braun Strowman into this, despite the fact that Braun Strowman didn't actually deliver the final blow by eliminating the final person from SmackDown. Triple H did. And whether I completely think about this moment, it honestly makes most of the booking in the final match honestly a huge step back compared to the other matches on the main card of Survivor Series. Tell me about it. This was the only Survivor Series to have an even score at the end between Raw and SmackDown. Before the main event, Raw and SmackDown were 3-3, and the winner of the main event can actually be able to be determined on which brand is superior. And as for the match itself, it did work out pretty good. But then we get moments like this. Shane McMahon is the final member of the SmackDown team to face off Raw in order to win the brand. But unfortunately, with the odds against him, it's not going to be able to work out easily. Believe me when I say this, is that if Triple H actually got eliminated and so is Kurt Angle, he still won't be able to have a chance against Braun Strowman, since that Braun Strowman has been booking a lot good in 2017. But then we get this. When Triple H completely tags in, I'm trying to find it. When Triple H tags in Kurt Angle, he completely gives Kurt Angle a pedigree, which helps Shane McMahon to pin Kurt Angle. And then for some reason, Triple H and Shane McMahon about to work together in order to take down Braun Strowman. But then Triple H did a pedigree to Shane McMahon, go for the pinfall, and earn the victory for Raw, which doesn't even make any sense whatsoever. For one thing, considering that this Survivor Series match had John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H, not to mention Shane McMahon, I honestly think that this kind of way to end off Shane McMahon being the final member, despite the fact that he was actually doing good in the match, ended up getting eliminated after Triple H actually helped him, really just goes to show that this somewhat rivalry between Braun Strowman and Triple H never happened whatsoever, and this leads to nowhere. All we ever completely see from the aftermath is just seeing Triple H and Kurt Angle feud each other until WrestleMania comes around, which ends up being the debut of Ronda Rousey. That's literally all I can see when it comes to this ending, when it comes to Raw picking up the victory over SmackDown. I really don't know what else to actually discuss when it comes to the booking decisions of this match in general. For me personally, Survivor Series 2017 was a really great pay-per-view when it comes to the booking decisions that they did. However, when it comes to the main event, it honestly makes everything else really meaningless because they completely booked this so powerfully when it comes to the brand supremacy, when it comes to Raw and SmackDown. And whether I completely see Triple H completely ruling everything, despite the fact that he helped Raw picking up the victory, honestly, just completely disappears most of the positive things of what Survivor Series 2017 did. And that's actually a shame because there were so many major changes when it comes to the wrestlers in the brand supremacy matches and the matches that they did when it comes to the quality of the wrestlers' talents. Believe me, I actually think that this pay-per-view is a really great pay-per-view when it comes to booking decisions and of how they actually make two brands equally powerful. But when you completely see what they did when it comes to the ending of the main event, it's really questionable. And I have to say this right now, that compared to what Shane McMahon did in 2018, this was pretty much his best performance. Granted, his 2016 performance in Survivor Series was mostly better, considering that he wasn't the last survivor in the match. But at least we can all agree with that. With the odds that Shane McMahon had against Triple H, Kurt Angle, despite Braun Strowman, he might be able to have a chance to actually give a victory to SmackDown. And besides, for what I've witnessed from this pay-per-view alone, and seeing the main event of how it was booked really questionably, I can guarantee you that the latest years of Survivor Series when it comes to SmackDown just continues to get worse the more I think about it, which is mostly a shame. And since that we're getting close to what everyone is mostly aware of, number 3, Raw's clean sweep. Yeah, whether I completely think about 2018 comparing to 2017, I can guarantee you that this reign really goes to show that SmackDown is just being booked terribly by the people in WWE. Believe me, this pay-per-view was a prime example on how they completely just forced SmackDown to be pushed to the ground in order to make the booking of the other storylines good. However, it doesn't excuse the fact that they completely pushed SmackDown physically to the ground at Survivor Series. And I'm saying this because if this was just basically an ordinary Survivor Series when it comes to everyone being part of the Raw brand, I can actually see this mostly acceptable. I'm sorry, but every match in this, when it comes to booking decisions, honestly is starting to become really overshadowing of what SmackDown have been through in this pay-per-view when it comes to the defeat against Raw. I'm saying this because the only time that SmackDown actually won in Survivor Series 2018 was the kickoff match, which didn't qualify as a reign whatsoever towards the final match, which if you look at the reign before, it's basically an even score. Seriously, it's not even an odd score when it comes to Raw winning 7 points or anything. Raw actually won 6 points, which is an even number. So I guarantee you that whether I completely look at Survivor Series 2018, if you look past up the good moments in this, you can really tell that SmackDown was physically pushed down, which is mostly a shame because SmackDown actually did a really good job in 2018, despite the fact that 2016 was superior. And when you completely see that all the Raw wrestlers completely take down SmackDown, despite the fact that they only had 2 wins before this, is honestly a point that the SmackDown wrestlers are just missing the point that brand supremacy doesn't even matter. If this was something that happened recently, maybe I can understand that because the wrestlers are getting sick of brand supremacy, but with this being the 3rd time, SmackDown should actually be taken seriously on the fact that they didn't want a brand supremacy whatsoever, and completely seeing them completely being pushed to the ground, despite with quality matches, doesn't excuse anything that SmackDown instantly lost all the matches. This is just pushing it to the point that losing just matters more as long as you put up a good match, which I do understand why people completely discuss that losers can actually make great matches. But when you completely have every single wrestler from the Smackdown roster lose, they really don't even have some kind of a contributing factor when it comes to becoming superior against Raw whatsoever. Yes, I am aware that people may be debating that Raw had a lot of worse moments in 2018, but the thing is, I really expected SmackDown to actually taken seriously in Survivor Series if they're trying to make those shows a lot more good. With the return of Daniel Bryan in the heel turn, not to mention the AJ Styles and Samoa Joe storyline, and compared to everything that what the SmackDown roster did in 2018, people have been overshadowing it because they were too focused on watching Raw. But then again, not everyone can watch everything WWE related in 1 year. I mean, NXT UK had became a thing in October, and I can guarantee you that everyone cannot keep track of everything, which I do understand. But when you completely had SmackDown Live a better show against Raw, while Raw had really questionable decisions, mainly the Dean Ambrose heel turn, which ends up becoming the biggest reasons onto why he quit WWE, and the fact that the Universal Championship Brock Lesnar has been off of TV so many times to the point that we just demand someone to actually win the Universal Championship so that they can actually defend the championship daily. And let's just say that the main events from Raw really goes to show that Raw really needs to actually be taken seriously if SmackDown is mostly a place where new stars can actually be grown, while the old stars just overshadowing the stars of today. Yeah. The more I completely think about this, the more I realize that Survivor Series 2018 is starting to become really difficult for me to enjoy for the clean sweep of what Raw deserved when it comes to the booking decisions. And the sad thing is, I'm not even done in 2018 because there was one match that I need to discuss. Number 4, SmackDown's Downgraded team. Yeah, compared to the teams in 2017 and 16, this is by far the weakest team that SmackDown had when they faced Raw again. The team that they had were The Miz, Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, and Shane McMahon. And the sad thing is, most of these wrestlers are really good stars when it comes to the booking decisions in the SmackDown brand. Heck, I can even tell that The Miz actually did some kind of success in the SmackDown brand despite being a face. However, compared to Raw's team, Finn Balor, Dolph Ziggler, Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre, I honestly think that they only did this for the sake of just having Raw being superior, since that the Raw vs. SmackDown thing when it comes to elimination matches are trying to be the most focused. And what SmackDown did in this match, they eliminate 2 wrestlers, which is Dolph Ziggler and Finn Balor. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough because apparently they completely booked Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, and Drew McIntyre as serious beasts when they're in the ring with the other SmackDown wrestlers. And the reason why I brought this up is because of what happened in Crown Jewel. I know I didn't mention DX vs. Brothers of Destruction in the last reasons, but believe me, I can guarantee you that the whole reason onto why SmackDown lost this match is because they won a trophy that Shane McMahon won by completely taking someone else's place in the finals, despite the fact that he wasn't in the tournament to begin with. And even to this day, people are just going to accept the fact that he's the best in the world, despite the fact that he doesn't deserve it. Tell me, the other wrestlers in SmackDown are slightly better than Shane McMahon, not because of the fact that he is, not the fact that they're full-time, but the fact that Shane McMahon had no reason to be part of the tournament to begin with. Especially in the Survivor Series match where he's part of the SmackDown team. You know, it is honestly difficult to actually see this match as a really forgettable match and seeing SmackDown as the weak link. But if they actually change the teams a little bit when it comes to replacing Shane McMahon and maybe The Miz, then maybe SmackDown will have a chance. I say this because the first person who got eliminated in the match was Samoa Joe. The same person who had an incredible feud with AJ Styles for the WWE Champion for the better part of 3 to 4 months. That really goes to show how much the booking decisions on how they're downgrading the SmackDown team for the sake of having the Raw being superior against the SmackDown. Tell me, I would give Raw some kind of credit, even with the roster it has, if they didn't make the booking a lot more predictable. Not to mention, really difficult to actually see the odds being against SmackDown with the roster that they had when it comes to the Raw team. I don't know about you, but even if Rey Mysterio, Jeff Hardy aren't going to be the same when it comes to returning, since that they're becoming older and older, and they aren't going to be the same as they used to be back then, it doesn't excuse the fact that they were booked terribly on facing the Raw wrestlers, and the fact that Braun Strowman is in this match really goes to show how much they instantly just tried to give Braun Strowman some kind of direction. However, it didn't end up happening. It didn't end up happening after this event, because before this event, Baron Corbin cost Braun Strowman the Universal Championship against Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel. So Braun Strowman actually eliminated most of the competition in 2018. In TLC 2018, he's facing Baron Corbin in a TLC match, and if he wins, he gets to face Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble for the Universal Championship. However, he was put out at the last minute because he accidentally destroyed Vince McMahon's limo, which replaced Finn Balor, which actually leads the storyline to nowhere whatsoever. Yeah, the storyline of Braun Strowman becoming a top superstar by winning the Universal Championship against Brock Lesnar ended up going nowhere whatsoever. Yes, Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar have faced each other in the past in 2017, but the thing is, if you're just gonna have Braun Strowman being a monster, completely being in this position by facing the SmackDown wrestlers and also dominating the match by doing the most eliminations, you really need to actually do something with him instead of just completely having him doing nothing afterwards and completely having SmackDown being buried for the sake of having this storyline continued but with no payoff whatsoever. Seriously, this match instantly raises so many questions when it comes to the booking decisions of before and after of 2018 Survivor Series. So I honestly think that it's honestly a lose-lose situation if SmackDown actually won this match compared to the other matches in 2018 Survivor Series at least. So yeah, the reason onto why I actually think that the clean sweep of Raw is way more undeserved than I thought is this match itself. And it's actually really hard to believe that out of all the matches I've seen in this show, this match had probably the least booking when it comes to SmackDown becoming victorious against the Raw brand. Number 5, NXT. When I completely heard that NXT was going to be part of the brand supremacy of Survivor Series of 2019, I instantly knew that NXT was definitely going to win. I've watched NXT a few times when it comes to me watching the matches and the performances that the wrestlers did. So whenever I completely think of NXT being part of Survivor Series in 2019, at a time where AEW Dynamite has becoming a thing, since October, it's really no surprise that WWE is trying to make NXT a superior show compared to AEW Dynamite. However, the issue is that it still doesn't really make me appreciate all the matches in this. I mean, the way it is, I can say that this is the second best Survivor Series, or the third if you want to place 2016 above this year's, but the scores that they give involving NXT doesn't really do much of justice when it comes to Smackdown still being lower down to the point that they can't be able to catch a break. And if you're gonna say that Smackdown actually beat Raw, it doesn't excuse the fact that NXT was there to change up everything. Here's the issue I have with NXT being part of Survivor Series. Like I've mentioned, it's no surprise that NXT is definitely going to win, all because they wanted to take down AEW. However, the issue is the fact that they make most of the matches, despite being good, honestly unpredictable by having the NXT wrestlers take the victory against the main roster in the main show. Seriously, the only team that actually gained a victory in the main show was SmackDown. And the kickoff, when it comes to the three matches that actually qualify as the score in Survivor Series, is just basically a way of just trying to have more talent and also just trying to fill up the scores, since that the main championships, the three main championships, are on the line on the main show. Now, I can actually give NXT the benefit of the doubt that they're trying to make NXT a very serious threat against Raw and SmackDown. However, we all know that NXT is a very better show than Raw and SmackDown, and I have to admit that it's the truth. It's mainly the fact that they did booking much more better than Raw and SmackDown, and if Raw and SmackDown had those booking decisions like what NXT did, then maybe I can actually get the feeling that SmackDown or Raw might be able to stand a chance against NXT. But the thing is, I honestly think that every match that I've seen, especially the War Games match before Survivor Series, they're really trying everything to make NXT a serious threat against AEW. But however, even with all that, even with all the moments that NXT had over the years, they still can't be able to fight back the talent of what AEW had once Dynamite premiered in TNT in October. I'm not trying to say that Survivor Series 2019 was the same Survivor Series as of 2018. However, it was really predictable that they're treating NXT as a third brand and not much of a development territory pay-per-view like it was since 2012. If you really expect me to believe that NXT managed to get all this, all because they're in a war against AEW Dynamite for Wednesday nights, then I honestly instantly think that NXT is definitely going to pick up the victory because of the booking. Trust me when I say this, is that as much as I really appreciate on the fact that the matches itself was pretty much the best matches that we've seen, and the fact that they were trying to make 2019 a huge, memorable Survivor Series when it comes to brand supremacy, it still doesn't excuse the fact that it's always a lose-lose situation that SmackDown, including Raw, won't be able to stand a chance against NXT. Believe me, if NXT was actually part of 2020 or this year's Survivor Series, if there is going to be a brand supremacy pay-per-view again, they're going to keep winning. It will just be like Raw all over again, except that it's going to be a full of questionable booking decisions that instantly makes me convinced that there's not going to be any point of having a brand supremacy pay-per-view if NXT is just going to end up winning again and again and again. I'm sorry, but if this pay-per-view didn't have NXT, then SmackDown would have had a chance to actually beat Raw in brand supremacy for the first time. I can understand that this is supposed to be a way to showcase the NXT wrestlers in Survivor Series, but when you completely look at how it's booked, especially the main event, it's honestly really difficult to actually see what NXT had worked hard since day one. And when you completely look at the matches that they produce after this event, they still can't be able to face AEW Dynamite no matter what because of the TV 14 lane and the roster that AEW has. No offense, but even every single wrestling promotion like AEW would instantly become much more better than NXT regardless. I won't say that NXT had major bad luck when it comes to the Wednesday Night Wars in 2020, but at the same time, compared to what I've seen this and the fact that if they're actually part of Survivor Series, it won't make any change since that they still ended up losing against AEW Dynamite nonetheless, which really makes most of the build-up of 2019 Survivor Series with the appearance of NXT honestly an afterthought. It's disappointing, but it's the truth. Number 6. Destruction to Embarrassment. It's confusing that I label number 6 as that, but that's really just the truth of what I've seen in 2020 Survivor Series. People say that this pay-per-view is forgettable for having no build-up, but with the pandemic and the fact that they really didn't know what to do when it comes to the roster that they had at that time, but whenever I completely look at this match and the next match that I'm going to be discussing in the next reasons, I can guarantee you that this is just further proof that Smackdown is instantly being beaten to the ground at Survivor Series. First, let me discuss what I actually found more than that needs to be said involving this match between AJ Styles' team, which is from Team Raw, against Jey Uso's Smackdown team. Before Survivor Series, they had this angle on the Raw brand completely having dysfunctional cooperation with each other since that they can't be able to get along. And they kept doing that even at the final Raw before Survivor Series. So you would think that SmackDown might be able to have a chance by facing and defeating the Raw team, despite the odds against them. Now, before any of you ask, yes, I will admit that this team is a lot more worse than the team in 2018. However, it's not because of how SmackDown has when it comes to the talent. It's mainly the booking decisions, and this match alone really goes to show that the booking decisions is instantly taking over the talent and how they accomplished. Seriously. Yes, I am fully aware that SmackDown had a dysfunctional team thing when it comes to Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio, and other wrestlers. However, I still can't be able to actually take this match seriously if you had the Raw team having dysfunctional cooperation with each other, while they completely find each other and trying to go on, while they still end up winning, not to mention they completely clean sweep the victory, which honestly makes no sense to begin with. Tell me about it. It's not even a good way to actually introduce this match, where you completely see all those SmackDown wrestlers being pinned by the Raw wrestlers constantly. 2018's Survivor Series match was bad, but this match instantly takes the cake. Look, if you're gonna explain the fact that the booking decisions in this is supposed to be a way to actually give some kind of credibility from the wrestlers of SmackDown, mainly Seth Rollins, where he sacrifices himself, it still doesn't really, it doesn't even make it right to have SmackDown lose again. It's really actually miserable wherever you completely see the Raw team completely having a difficult time to cooperate, while SmackDown, despite with a few talks, had a few tweaks, still had a better cooperation against the Raw team. Seriously. How do you actually expect me to believe that King Corbin, Otis, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, and I named those four to have a really difficult time to work together while they're completely being beaten down by a team who had a hard time working together. It doesn't work whatsoever. This match really goes to show that they're instantly making the roster from SmackDown downgrade worse and worse despite the accomplishments that they did. Yes, I understand that there was so much stress when it comes to booking these wrestlers, but when you completely book these wrestlers with the moments that they had, like Otis's match at WrestleMania 26, and just him completely being a singles competitor since that Tucker completely decides to be his own person in the Raw roster, despite the fact that it ended up going nowhere afterwards. Along with other wrestlers like Kevin Owens and Jey Uso being in great storylines, you really think that SmackDown might be able to have a chance. But no, it just doesn't. This just goes to show that WWE is doing this on purpose for the sake of having Raw being superior by any means necessary. Tell me, whether I completely see Raw having so many issues when it comes to being part of a team and being used against Retribution, then no. This match isn't even realistic. I mean, the only realistic thing I can actually see is Seth Rollins sacrificing himself. And that's it. That's literally all I can see of SmackDown losing a wrestler because he sacrifices himself. I can easily accept everything, except that the aftermath really goes to show that this match has become a lot more worse when it comes to the wrestlers. I mean, besides Sheamus actually beginning with a feud with Drew McIntyre afterwards, Matt Riddle just ends up going back to the mid-card scene. AJ Styles wins a qualifying match in order to face Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, which he ends up losing. Braun Strowman gets suspended, and Keith Lee ends up going back to the Performance Center. Yeah. Tell me about it. How does this make any sense whatsoever? A team that can't get along ends up getting along by winning at the end, but then afterwards, they didn't win anything besides Sheamus. Seriously. This victory is honestly a lot more questionable the more I completely take it to the seriousness of how they completely make the SmackDown team downgrade more and more. I actually think that SmackDown had a chance since that NXT wasn't part of this event because of the coronavirus, but with this is honestly just pushing it to the point that they're just doing this just to take down SmackDown for the sake of making Raw superior, despite the fact that Raw ended up having bad moments afterwards. This is starting to become a booking decision that you usually see of someone playing a WWE 2K video game with when it comes to story designer. If you play the PS4, PS3 games, that is. And when you completely see this type of stuff happening on Raw, this is just unbelievable. Like, really unbelievable. And the sad thing is, this match isn't even the worst thing that WWE did to SmackDown at Survivor Series, because the 7th time that WWE pushed SmackDown to the ground is nothingness above talent. No, I'm not making this up. I am never going to get over this at the fact that Raw actually got a brand supremacy win at 2020, all because of a Lana storyline that ended up going nowhere afterwards. Not to mention the fact that Lana actually did more before this event besides being Rusev's manager. Tell me, this match alone honestly makes me convinced that WWE is literally doing this on purpose on having SmackDown being the weaker link against Raw, and the fact that they actually had a chance to actually take down Raw with the talent that they had. I mean, really, when you completely have this type of talent in the SmackDown roster, going against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who are the women's tag team champions, then I can honestly tell for a fact that they might be able to actually stand against Team Raw. But unfortunately, the booking decisions happen, and this is where I'm fully convinced that all this is done for the sake of just making Smackdown push down, despite the fact that Survivor Series 2020 is yet another pay-per-view involving brand supremacy. Anyway, the Lana storyline involves with her being the final member of the Raw team. And for the majority of her encounters with Nia Jax, she's been putting through a table with so many times from Nia Jax in Raw from September to November. And let's just say that at this point, it's really, really unnecessary the more you can look at this. And it actually goes to show that if you look at what Lana did before this, it honestly makes the storyline a lot more questionable than anything else. When Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler actually accidentally took out 2 of the team members from Raw, they ended up with Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce, which, in all honesty, I can tell that they'll probably want to actually give Lana some kind of purpose in this, but the thing is, you really expect me to believe that these 2 females being changed at the last minute is supposed to make any different outcome in this match? Then no, it really doesn't. Because let's just say that for the majority of this match, when Lana actually tags herself in, she did a few spots, but then one of the other female wrestlers tags her back out, and Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler forces her to stand on the steps without being at ringside, without being on the ropes for a tag, making for the majority of this match of Lana doing absolutely nothing. Let me discuss this. And it's the fact that Lana was actually a wrestler since WrestleMania 32. Now, I understand that Lana isn't like the other wrestlers when it comes to the women's division in WWE of today, but I completely saw those matches before, and whether I completely see those matches years before Survivor Series 2020, this whole Lana and Nia Jax storyline isn't really needed whatsoever. Not to mention that it actually makes it way more confusing whether you completely look up what Lana did in the past on becoming a wrestler in the early years. Seriously, it really makes you really question onto why she's being treated this way, despite the fact that she's a face instead of a heel. Heck, she was even a heel in the Royal Rumble women's match in 2020, so it honestly makes it even more confusing to actually see her being known as a face. And if this doesn't convince you enough, in Royal Rumble, she was in a match against Naomi for the Women's Championship, and she actually did a lot more than a few spots in the Survivor Series match. I'm sorry, but whether I completely look at these matches that people instantly forgot about, and the fact that they were actually in the fact that they were actually performed better from Layla when it comes to the booking decisions back then that is actually a shame why I actually remember these matches more when it comes to the build-up of Survivor Series 2020. Seriously. You cannot convince me that Lana is instantly the weak link. I mean, she isn't a great wrestler, but whenever I completely look at some of her matches and accomplishments before Survivor Series 2020, her victory doesn't even make any sense whatsoever, and it honestly making her becoming a next star really meaningless because she ends up getting injured in the following month after Survivor Series. I don't know how WWE is just doing this just for the sake of having Lana do something on her own. But the thing is, when people completely discuss that the reason why Lana is deserving all this because Rusev is in AEW, now being named as Morrow or something, then then how can you overlook at the moments that Lana did on her own in most of the matches before Survivor Series 2020? Granted, she didn't do great in those matches, but she actually did more in those matches compared to her match at Survivor Series 2020. Seriously. Believe me, whenever I completely look at the ending of Bianca Belair and Nia Jax being counted out and seeing Lana being victorious against the other wrestlers, which ends up becoming Nothingness against 9 talented wrestlers, that doesn't even... It doesn't even feel like a proper victory for the Raw team whatsoever. This is something you would usually expect from a regular one-on-one, a regular Survivor Series match if this wasn't about brand supremacy. Seriously, if this actually happened on Raw that didn't have anything involving brand supremacy, then maybe I can easily forgive most of the booking, forgive that kind of booking decisions. But this is Raw versus Smackdown, and this is the point where Raw actually won against Smackdown for a 4th time. It's really actually depressing to actually see Smackdown being pushed to the ground again for the sake of a storyline that ends up going nowhere afterwards. And the sad thing is, they had great talent like Bianca Belair, who was killing the women's division and becoming the sole survivor of the Smackdown team. And I honestly found it hard to believe that she actually get counted out all because of a Lana storyline that just ends up going nowhere whatsoever. Seriously. I don't care if Raw and Smackdown didn't have authority figures whatsoever. What I'm actually confused is the fact that they just completely pushed SmackDown to the ground for the sake of a Lana storyline where she does absolutely nothing. Not to mention that this would have been much more better if Lana actually lost to Bianca Belair properly. Not by a count out, but the fact that she didn't win by count out and actually lose to becoming the final sole survivor against Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and the other wrestlers. That is a better accomplishment, in my opinion, than just having seen her doing absolutely nothing. Seriously, no one, especially in other wrestling companies, would do this. And when you completely see that the other wrestlers, like Bianca Belair, are being pushed to the ground, all for the sake of having Lana becoming victorious, WWE honestly doesn't even have any kind of faith in SmackDown because of this type of booking decisions. And if you're gonna say that this isn't about Raw and SmackDown, Survivor Series 2020 is another brand supremacy pay-per-view. You guys are just overlooking it, and you're just treating this as if it was nothing else, despite the fact that SmackDown has been losing so many times. Tell me, I would easily forgive most of this if they actually treat Lana a bit seriously when it comes to her abilities that she did in the past, and the fact that whether I completely mentioned something that people instantly forgot about and actually brought up for the sake of this video, well, the final time that SmackDown has been pushed to the ground in Survivor Series actually involves brand supremacy, then you pretty much know they actually have more to look at in WWE than you think. Yes, I don't usually do a lot of videos involving WWE, but this is by far the worst thing of what WWE did to SmackDown, and that is saying a lot. I don't care if people are going to say Lana is still a good person and the fact that she's a good manager. However, Rusev is no longer in WWE anymore, and as far as I'm concerned, the way they're booking Lana in this, and the fact that it leads to nowhere, really makes everything of what she did in the Survivor Series match completely take down the talent of what Raw, of SmackDown, and including Raw, for what they had. Seriously. And it's honestly becoming annoying whether the SmackDown team instantly just gets over the fact that they lost for a 4th time. Or a 5th time if you want to count NXT's participation, which for me personally, I don't really qualify it that much. This video was longer than necessary, but I honestly don't even care at this point when it comes to the brand supremacy of Raw and SmackDown. I can tell you for a fact that if there's going to be another brand supremacy of Survivor Series this year, and if NXT is going to be part of this, SmackDown won't be able to have a chance against Raw because of so many constant booking decisions that's been happening. People may say that 2020 Survivor Series isn't memorable when it comes to not a lack of storytelling between Raw and SmackDown. But the thing is, this is the 5th time that they did this, and the fact that they're treating this draft brand split a lot more differently compared to the first brand split, they really didn't have a lot to do when it comes to the brand supremacy in 2020. Especially the pandemic that's been going on, which prevents other wrestlers to be part of shows. Now, I understand that you shouldn't take this seriously because no one wins at the end, and the fact that the brand supremacy thing is mainly for fun. However, the reason why I take this seriously compared to the other booking decisions is because they're treating this brand split a lot more different compared to the first brand split. What I mean by that is the fact that the reason why the first brand split exists is because WWE brought out WCW and ECW, and they don't know how to deal with the talent when it comes to showcasing all of them, so they had to split the talent in half for favor for the SmackDown show. It is going to be a lot more questionable whether I completely look at some of these times in the earlier years of having the brand supremacy. However, compared to the current brand supremacy of the wrestlers of today, I can tell you that the first brand split was instantly a work in progress when it comes to both rosters. Granted, I don't watch Raw and SmackDown that much, but I do remember playing the games as a child, like SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, 8, 9, 10, and even though I did play SmackDown Shut Your Mouth that actually started the brand split, I completely understand of how they can handle the brand split in a way when it comes to storytelling. Yes, it is mostly debatable that the first brand split only had one brand supremacy match, well, 2 if you want to count Eric Bischoff and Teddy Long, which, let's be real, we don't want to count that because it was a bad match. The match of Raw and SmackDown in 2005, I honestly think that the reason why they only did that once is because they were trying to build up Raw and SmackDown over these last 3 years by the time they start the brand split in 2002. And whether we completely see the Raw vs. SmackDown thing in 2005, it's mostly a work in progress. I mean, nothing against the wrestlers of 2005, but whether I completely look at this, I can honestly tell you that SmackDown instantly got the win, mainly the fact that they were much more better cooperated, and this was during the Ruthless Aggression era, where it's TV-14 and it's not TV-PG. It's not the same as the current brand split, since that it's mostly catered to kids, while the Ruthless Aggression era is for 14-year-olds and mostly adults. However, I honestly think that compared to the roster that we ended up getting in the present day, despite with the pandemic going on, it really makes you understand that this brand split is a lot more different compared to the old brand split. Not because of the different types of talent that they had, but the fact that they have so much money to work out with so many talents in order to make them work out for their capabilities in the shows that they're part of. Granted, they didn't do well with all of them, because we all know that not every person can be successful in a company. It still doesn't change the fact that WWE has gotten so much money, and whether I completely see that the brand split has returned in 2016, that is something that I can never get over with, because 2016, in my opinion, was the golden age of wrestlers of that time. since that NXT was growing much more bigger, and the fact that WWE is actually coming up with ideas for what they could do with the wrestlers, and the fact that there was so much creative differences when it comes to Raw and SmackDown during that time, they really did a great job. Granted, not everything was good, but at the same time, they did what they could in order to make Raw and SmackDown a lot more different compared to the brands that they compared to the first brand split that they did in the past. Now, I have to admit that SmackDown did have some terrible moments, and I cannot deny that SmackDown isn't perfect by any means necessary. However, while I completely look at Raw and SmackDown in Survivor Series, and the fact that they're still doing this brand supremacy thing, it's literally the same thing again and again and again, despite the fact that there's no differences whatsoever. And if I ever actually look at the good moments, it's instantly overshadowed by constant booking decisions that just ends up having Raw win at the end, while having SmackDown just ends up losing, making the matches mostly meaningless. There was a reason why I didn't watch the final farewell of The Undertaker of Survivor Series of 2020, mainly the fact that Undertaker has been retired so many times, so actually seeing him retired again is honestly way more repetitive than anything. Not trying to be disrespect, but I wasn't really interested in The Undertaker at this point. I mean, I was back then, but as of now, being nearly 23 years old by the following month, I'm honestly getting bored out of The Undertaker and actually expect new talent. Granted, that's what The Undertaker is trying to do, but if the whole purpose is to have the 2020 Survivor Series be all about The Undertaker, and that's why they put all the focus on The Undertaker, I still don't think that Raw didn't need to be victorious, because I would have been fine if SmackDown actually did something good by beating Raw for the sake of just trying to be the better show. And whether I completely see moments like this after the women's match, it's not really worth it. Because as much as I appreciate The Undertaker's abilities in his past and the fact that he's really one of the best wrestlers in WWE, it doesn't change the fact that it's still overshadowing the stars of today and the fact that he's a wrestler from yesterday. No offense, but this whole farewell thing is honestly mostly a waste of time on just trying to put more focus on that than just completely focusing on the wrestlers of the Raw and SmackDown brand. And whether I completely say that Undertaker is actually retired for real, and this is mainly about the 30 years of The Undertaker, they would have done that, but at the same time, they shouldn't actually put the focus away from the brand supremacy thing, since that's what Survivor Series was literally about since 2016. I'm sorry, but I'm really focusing on the current stars of today instead of yesterday, which is something that I completely have been growing accustomed to since these last 2 years. Now, some people are going to say that Survivor Series is mainly about being the best, the one of the 4 best pay-per-view brands, and it's not supposed to be about brand supremacy. But after 2015, I honestly think that having a traditional Survivor Series pay-per-view won't be able to work out. I mean, I was planning on putting multiple reasons onto why SmackDown has been pushed to the ground because of all those storylines that end up leading to WrestleMania, but that's been happening before, so I honestly think that's mostly debatable. And there were other things that I have something against when it comes to the wrestlers not being part of the teams of SmackDown, but it's mostly petty, and at this point, I've pretty much wasted more of your time as it is. My point is that what Survivor Series had before 2015, despite with the exceptions, they were really, let's just say that they're really not the best of what WWE had over these years. mainly for booking decisions and the fact that most of the matches, mainly the 7-on-7 Divas matches in 2013, and along with other booking decisions, Survivor Series just isn't really improving much. Believe me. I mean, the only times when they actually do improve is the serious moments the well the elimination matches were actually taken seriously compared to the other matches when they aren't meant to be taken seriously. I was about to show you the Big Show betraying Team Cena photo, but unfortunately it wasn't part of this album for some reason. But the bottom line is, I'm just saying that most of the Survivor Series matches I've seen in Survivor Series just hasn't been the same, mainly the fact that it's not really good. I mean, when it comes to a traditional classic Survivor Series match of one person's team against other person's team, it does work, unless if it actually is booked better. And in the years of the roster after the brand split came to an end, including before that, Survivor Series just isn't really the same as it was, and it's starting to become more of a fourth best pay-per-view compared to WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and the Royal Rumble. Look, as much as I can understand that most of my points in this are mostly biased on the fact that I am a SmackDown supporter, but at the same time, after completely becoming a WWE fan for nearly 20 years and completely understanding of what WWE can be able to be handle when it comes to its creativity, I'm pretty sure that they could have done much more better since they're actually handling with serious competition. Literally the only reason why that they're completely having no issues because they have so many fans tuning in to watch their content constantly. And if you really ask me, those words alone really goes to show that WWE just instantly changes constantly no matter what, and whatever chances that they did, they instantly just completely done it for all the wrong reasons in order to make Raw a superior show. Look, Raw may be the flagship show of WWE since 1993, but the thing is, SmackDown has been improving so much, and the fact that Raw instantly is just getting forced into our faces on being a better show than SmackDown, despite the fact that the moments that they did in the past is starting to become way more questionable than anything, then at this point, there's really no point to having a brand supremacy pay-per-view involving Raw and SmackDown whatsoever. It's starting to become really disappointing to actually see SmackDown being pushed to the ground after all the work that they did in order to make WWE a lot more better. Seriously, I've seen people commenting on SmackDown's going to win at Survivor Series, SmackDown's going to win at Survivor Series, or in the following year, SmackDown's going to win again. We're in 2021, and if you completely saw the times that SmackDown has been pushed to the ground in Survivor Series that I have mentioned in this video, it's starting to become way more predictable that they're treating Raw way too much dignity and respect at this point. And it's really disappointing that SmackDown, just by being good moments, won't be able to dethrone Raw or even NXT. I know that it's mainly about having fun while trying to pick which brand you want to be part of, but this is the second brand split, which is a lot more different. And if you're gonna mention that SmackDown did win in bracket wins 2009 and 10, it was at a time where the brand split just hasn't been the same, mainly the fact that the brand exclusive pay-per-views are gone, and the fact that the attention on the wrestlers from Raw and SmackDown aren't getting developed when it comes to the tag team divisions, mainly the fact that the championships were unified. And it's also the fact that once the brand split came to an end, I honestly think that SmackDown is just going to basically SmackDown 1999 to 2002 all over again. I'm sorry, but whether I completely think about the brand split of this second brand split ending really makes the wrestlers completely not having a job in order to showcase their talent. And I'm saying this because people have been complaining about the wild card rule in 2019. And when people completely complain about the wild card rule in 2019, that is something that people shouldn't overlook. And when more people are being employed in WWE when it comes to other places and countries, WWE will probably never destroy the brand split again because of the amount of money that they're getting. Believe me when I say this, is that if you're working with the WWE and completely having so much talent, you will have no other choice but to give the other talented people more screen time in other shows instead of the main flagship show. And all the examples that I've taught you in this video, I'm honestly starting to convince that the brand split is going to remain Parliament forever because of the fact that Raw is the fact that they have so much wrestlers. And believe me, whether I completely think of Survivor Series becoming another brand supremacy pay-per-view again, I instantly think that it's just gonna be probably Raw versus Smackdown versus NXT again, because like I mentioned, Survivor Series just isn't gonna be good with the amount of directions that they have when it comes to the wrestlers' storylines against each other. Yeah, this video was longer than it needs to be, but I still hope that for the very least that SmackDown could at least win one Survivor Series brand supremacy. That's all I wanted. I don't have a problem with them losing most of the matches as long as they come out victorious with more points than the other teams. And if the coronavirus doesn't end up continuing on whatsoever by the end of this year when it comes to NXT and NXT UK, I can guarantee you that they're going to be part of Survivor Series again, with NXT UK being a separate team. Yes, I did say that. I understand it's going to be overload when it comes to talent, but at the same time, NXT UK has a Heritage Cup champion, A-Kid, or other wrestler who defeated him in the meantime. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that for what we're going to see in the later Survivor Series, we're probably going to have the brand supremacy pay-per-view concept again, no matter what. And I'm sorry to say this, but if you disagree with me or not, I still think that if SmackDown doesn't win a brand supremacy pay-per-view at Survivor Series once it's all over with, then I'm pretty sure that SmackDown is officially becoming WWE's light play toy or something. Like, they only use SmackDown in order to get more attention for the sake of having the SmackDown viewers to watch Raw viewers, despite the fact that this is brand supremacy and not much when it comes to picking which and not much about which show is better than the other. This video has gone up longer than it needs to be, and yeah, I pretty much knew that this video was longer than necessary, but this was a long time coming for me after nearly 5 years of seeing the brand supremacy happening in Survivor Series with for so many times. If some of you guys agree with me or not, comment down below, and I apologize for the length of this video, but I mostly make videos much longer than necessary, so don't expect me to actually make a video much shorter than this one when it comes to me discussing topics like this. I just wanted to get everything off my chest. I'm Lonely Fanboy 40 here, and I'll see you more with more uploads in the month of April.
Let's get this started again. Me and my whole crew.